What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on my wagon just a smidge today. Just a smidge, because if you look, we already losing the daylight. Honestly, I had no intentions to be in the garage today because it has been raining the last 2 days and today is super duper cold out, and I knew I wanted to do some running around, grab some parts, right? And we'll continue working in the garage tomorrow. But I'm like, you know what, let's just utilize the rest of the day and do something, right? Because the saying always goes, progress is better than no progress. If you guys haven't seen the last video, be sure to go back and check it out. We installed a new hydro conversion kit provided by EF_ED conversion on Instagram. They make hydro conversion kits specifically for the EF right-hand drive chassis. I will say in the last 2 days I have been working on the K20A2 engine that belongs to the wagon off camera, and you guys, if you paid attention, you'll know the difference, but if you guys don't, let me run you guys through it. So this thing originally had a 106 back housing, and the reason why I ran such a large back housing before was because the spool was just way too early with the 3076, and I wanted to push the spool further away from VTEC, and it worked out wonderful, right? But with the Just TIG log manifold, it mounts the turbo on the top, and the 106 actually interferes with the valve cover. So if you look, I shaved it down, and I shaved it enough that we are cleared with the valve cover. You can see the tape is kind of pushed up, so that's like the tolerance that we have. And because this was so tight to the valve cover, I wouldn't be able to run a turbo blanket. So I downsized to the original 82 back housing that originally was on the turbo, and I'm able to run a turbo blanket on it to kind of help contain the heat in the engine bay, especially towards the firewall, because when you're not running heater with a turbo setup sitting back here, your foot, your leg, it'll burn, which explains why a lot of the holes are taped off with blue masking tape. But anyways, 82 back housing, we have the turbo blanket on. This is not finalized because I still need hardware, which is coming in for the turbo to the manifold. I also installed the engine harness right here, and everything is routed in place except the intake manifold setup. So TPS, map sensor, injectors, none of those are plugged in because I'm going to pull this off to work with the front of the car before the manifold goes back on, and then we can fully button up the rest of the harness. But for the most part, everything else is all plugged in. Last night I finished up rewiring the harness because if you guys don't remember, I mentioned that we're going to be removing the S2K cluster, and I did just that. Only a few wires were snipped, but for the most part the original plugs are still here, and everything is all repaired for the factory cluster. Now I did mention I was going to run this cluster only to find out that this is a EF8 EF9 and everything back here is completely different. So I'm thinking that I'm just going to be ditching this cluster and the S2K cluster, and I'm on a hunt for the EF2 or the EF5, which is the sedan and wagon Beagle cluster. They are interchangeable, they are the same, and it is like a needle in the haystack trying to find a manual cluster. So I think that's going to probably be one of the last things, hopefully, when everything goes back together, is to find a cluster. But if you guys have a leads on one, if you guys have one for sale, you know, UK, JDM, sedan or wagon Beagle cluster for sale, let me know, because I want to go back to the factory stuff. Anywho, in today's video, I just came back from O'Reilly's. I picked up a brake booster. This is going to be permanently mounted into the car, into the pedal assembly, and then along this we're going to do the brake master. I'm just going to hang it in place for now because I do need to build the brake lines, which is not going to be in today's video since I don't have all the fittings or the lines, but I want to mock it in place at least. And then I want to do Rubberize undercoating on the wheel wells since it has been chewed out with the brakes over the years, and also underneath the firewall where the subframe sits, because I did kind of overspray it. So enough jibber jabber, let's get to work. All right, so this right here, brake best from O'Reilly's, 535412, and this is actually the DX model, and it is, I think, like $20 or $30 cheaper than the EX model. Now the difference between the EX and the DX model is the diaphragm on the inside of the EX is 1 inch larger than the DX, and honestly, for a car that I'm not going to drive all the time, I'm not really worried about that 1 inch diaphragm being bigger than the DX model. So I ended up buying this one to save a little bit of money, and also the DX one comes black, where the EX one comes that grayish color, which is like raw aluminum and will rust over time. So let's go ahead and get this installed. Make sure the gaskets are on there. There is no gasket. That kind of sucks. Okay, so I just realized that this does not have a clevis on it. I don't know if I have an extra one. My old clutch hydro conversion. Oh yeah, we got one right here. Now we're gonna have to adjust this when it's in the car. Not a big deal. We got to do the same thing with the clutch master as well. That also has a clevis to the pedal. Got to make sure I have the pin at least. Where's the pin? Where's the pin? I don't know where the pin's at. Okay, cool. We got the pin.
From here, you can see we're one big team. And at last,
I don't know if this will fit.
progress touch all of us, working together on new sources of energy, cars that drive to the future.
Yes, sir.
Deliveries. Together.
Harbor Freight for the win. Okay, so the brake booster goes in with the nipple facing the top, right? Now, if you want to tuck it, this line right here, instead of it kind of like just coming to the top, you can flip the booster upside down and tuck it underneath. Now, I'm a little worried because this might actually be too close to the shock tower, and I might not be able to put a hose there. I mean, I could probably put a hose there. If I put like a short little like 45 type hose, maybe it'll clear. Maybe I'll just bolt it upside down. We'll make that work. No, that'll work. That'll work. I'm gonna mount this upside down just to kind of tuck that out of the way so it can kind of go along the frame rail and then to the intake manifold for the vacuum source. Oh, I also do need the check valve, which I'm sure I have in the box up there, but for right now, let's go ahead and get this thing mounted up. I would really like a gasket between the booster and the firewall, but I don't have one. And my booster delete also doesn't have one. Not gonna lie, I was gonna bolt everything down, but then it just, I don't know, I'm not crazy OCD. I've said this before, I'm not crazy OCD, I'm just a smidge. And knowing that there's no gasket in between, I don't know, it just didn't sit right. So, came up with a bright idea. My brother builds bikes, and asked him for a blown tube if he had one lying around, and I'm just gonna make it out of this since it is rubberized, and if I slice it and flatten it out, it should have enough width to make this rectangle gasket. So real quick, we are looking at 4 1/4, 3 1/4, 4 1/4, 3 1/4. Let's make the first hit here. I'm gonna cut it at 3 1/2 because I know I'm gonna have to trim it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just cut this straight across, open up this tube and make it flat. Cool. 3 1/4. I can already see where 3 1/4 is at. It's right here. Cut that straight across. Obviously, this right here is dead center between the 4 bolts. So I'm gonna go ahead and find the center. What I can do is just fold this right in half and then cut that half circle. There's my circle. I'm gonna go ahead and just roughly cut the stud holes. All right, there's our gasket, little DIY. Can't beat that. Go ahead and just install this. Look at that. Somebody come look at this. Somebody come look at this. Look at that. Can't beat it. Can't beat it. Let's go. Now, if you have the booster already installed and you forgot to check the clevis, you can still adjust the clevis and rod by just turning the rod after loosening up the lock nut. But because mine is not bolted in, I figured I'd just adjust it beforehand. All right, so we have the pin in, a little clip right here. Double check the 12 mil that's holding the pedal up before the booster. There are 6 total nuts holding this pedal assembly to the chassis. Plenty strong. This is a 15/16 brake master from the 1991 EX sedan model, and the DAs also have a 15/16, except their bolt pattern is the opposite side, right? So most people who run a big booster master setup in an EF, it's always the DA model because it's easier to find than the EX stuff. The booster is actually much larger, and it actually kicks out the brake master much more forward, and I didn't want to run a DA setup because I'm K series and the valve cover comes really close to right here already. So if I ran a DA setup, it might even like protrude into the VTEC solenoid, and I didn't want that issue. So I am running the EF booster because it is much shorter, in hopes that the front of the brake master doesn't actually like come close to the VTEC solenoid. And by the looks of it, I think it'll work out perfectly fine because there's a hole right here on the shock tower that the ground bolts to, and that hole that the ground bolts to is actually about an inch away from the valve cover. So the end of the brake booster is behind that hole, which then I might end up having like a little over 2 inches of clearance. So that's what I'm looking for. Let's go ahead and bolt this up. This hole right here is where I bolt the ground for the valve cover, and the valve cover actually sits like somewhere here. So from the hole, as a preference, we're gonna have a lot of space between the brake booster, valve cover. VTEC solenoid sits a little further down, so we're not gonna interfere here. This is pretty much my new brake setup. Took a little pause on my wagon over there to help out my neighbor real quick. If you guys remember this Nissan Altima, I changed out the coil pack on this car, as well as all brand new motor mounts all around. And he pulled up right now and his car was like doing a weird on and off misfire. So I was like, okay, pull the cover off real quick, let me look at it. And I can see that the engine was like idling perfect, and then all of a sudden it was like jolting all crazy, and then it was idling perfect. I noticed that this coil pack and this coil pack had a lot more vibration on it than these two. I'm thinking that this one's vibrating because it's next door, but this one was bad. So I pulled out the original coil pack, and there's a lot of oil in the cylinder. So I was like, okay, that's not good. Swapped the coil pack anyways. It was still doing some weird stuff, and I was like, I don't know about all that oil in there, right? Valve cover gasket needs to be changed. We're probably gonna do that soon. So I decided to pull out the spark plug, and guess what I found? Check this out. Spark plugs doing some weird stuff right there. So he just took off right now to go get another spark plug, just one for right now because I'm actually busy the next couple of days. So he's going to do one for right now to replace this one so he can drive it, and then he's going to do valve cover gaskets and all new spark plugs when I have time to work on it. So right now we're just waiting for the part to come back, but I'm going to check these other ones to make sure the spark plugs aren't doing that either. No bueno. These two are still brand new. Coil pack not leaking at all. Super clean cylinders, and the leaky ones is probably what killed these plugs. guys, so we have the entire engine bay all masked up that I do not want overspray on. Towers, firewall. Just gonna pull this down a little bit, trying to protect the top like that. This cover up a little bit. What I normally do is I get cardboard and I kind of use it to protect the backside, whatever I don't want overspray. So like normally when I buy valve cover gaskets or head gaskets, it comes with a really flat cardboard. You guys would probably know what I'm talking about. And not this, but like this one right here, Velcro, and I just use this as a backing to make sure we don't have overspray. So probably just gonna use this one. And then this right here, 3M professional grade rubberized undercoating. This is what I used on the car before, but I had a leaky brake line which ate up the sides, and I'm just pretty much recoating it to give it that fresh look. And you know, when I do all the suspension again, it's gonna look nice and fresh under there. But let's go ahead and shake this up. I'm gonna use a heat gun to kind of like get it all nice and warm, and then we'll get this spraying. 10:43 guys, we are done with the rubberized undercoating, and this thing laid out really nice and even. I did heat up the can for a cool minute. I literally took the can, I put it inside the box and just ran the heat gun on it for like 5 minutes. That thing was nice and warm, and I'm stoked how this laid out, because I've always had issues where I laid down rubberized undercoating and I don't know if I'm laying one side like more thicker than the other, and when it dries up it's like a nice shiny spot where it's supposed to be, you know, nice and flat. So I'm happy that it's nice and uniform all the way through. Take you guys underneath here. It's laid out really nice as well too. I did go a little further back to where the firewall was jointed with the chassis right there, because this car is right-hand drive converted back in 2013. Nice and even. On this side I actually ran out of undercoat, so I laid all of this. I got to about right here, and then I ran out of the can. And what's crazy is, obviously this is thick stuff, right? So inside the can, I don't know if you guys can hear it, it's literally like this much, but there's no more compressed air in here. So I was fortunate that I had an extra can that was also almost gone, but just enough to lay down the rest of the front half of this side. So this is all nicely laid out and everything's looking really freaking good. So these guys, because there's no more air in there, even though there's still rubberized undercoating, can't use it if it doesn't come out right. So toss that. I'm gonna give you guys one more look with the wrap off the car. Dude, I'm very happy I took time to mask this thing up. I actually went along the line this time all the way down, where last time I just kind of right over this. So this right here definitely gives the entire engine bay side of things a fresh look with, like, you know, everything all nice and brand new. Dang. Subframe's getting powder coated. Oh man, I'm very happy with, you know, how this is turning out, and I'm very glad that I decided to revamp the engine bay of my wagon. It is currently 11:07, and I didn't really expect to be out here this late, but regardless of the fact, we got some work done on the wagon, and we also helped my neighbor fix his Nissan Altima. It's currently starting to rain right now, and that is the reason why I decided to take the baggage off the engine bay, because water does come down from the canopy, through the car cover, through my engine bay, and I don't want water to get underneath the bag and cause moisture. Moisture causes a lot of problems later down the road. We bought a new brake booster for the car. We fully installed that, and then I mocked up the 1516 brake master because I still need to build the brake line from the master through the firewall to the prop valve, which sits behind the firewall underneath the heater control unit. Once we get the new brake lines bent up from the master to the prop valve, the front spindles all freshened up and reinstalled with the brake lines connected back to the hard line, then we'll pull the master off, bench bleed it, put it back on, and then fully rebleed the entire brake system. We're just waiting for all the fittings to show up, and then we'll get cracking on that. It may not seem like we did a lot in today's video, but progress is better than no progress. The stuff that we did today was stuff I needed to do eventually anyways, so I figured, you know what, let's just take you guys along, right? Now, before we wrap up this video, I did get my package from the homie Automotive Anatomy. If you guys don't remember, a couple of videos ago, we ran a limited run on a collaboration t-shirt with me and the homie Gus from Automotive Anatomy. And I want to give a big shout out to everybody who placed an order for the collaboration t-shirt. We left it open for about a week, and we got a hefty amount of order that came in. Hopefully by now, you guys should have all received it because they were all shipped out the same day, and I have mine right here. For those who missed the pre-order, I just want to show you guys what the t-shirt looks like because I don't think we're going to be running another batch anytime soon. So cut away from yourself, not towards yourself, and not towards the t-shirt either. Oh shoot. So shout out to the homie Automotive Anatomy for creating this collaboration merch because I've been slacking, and this right here, this run that we did, it shows us a lot. It shows us a lot, and I'm hoping, you know, we're gonna get rocking with my stuff here soon. But shout out to Automotive Anatomy right here, cop a license plate because, you know, I'd rather be watching him than anybody else. Honestly, I have been because everything else on YouTube has been kind of boring. But Automotive Anatomy license plate. So t-shirt design right here, guys. In the front, we have Automotive Anatomy's logo with my Civic Wagon right there. And then on the back side is a much larger version of that. And then it says, from the Bay to Orange County, keeping the Honda Golden Era alive. Because if you guys don't remember, we drove the EF sedan to SoCal. And Automotive Anatomy is from the OC, and this is our collaboration tee. Wait, did that rhyme? I think it did. Now, I expected the t-shirt, but I did not expect a crew neck. And let me tell you guys, this thing feels really comfortable. Shout out to Gus, man, for sending out this extra merch right here. This is a crew neck. I love crew necks. I really do. S1, you know, if you can make some crew necks, that'd be freaking awesome. But nonetheless, I love this one right here. Shout out to Gus for this one right here. This was not available, and this is just for me and him. I just realized Gus wears a lot of crew neck as well too. Great minds think alike. Anyways, guys, we're going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the progress update on my Civic Wagon. If you guys did, be sure to leave a thumbs up. And if you guys want to stick around, I think tomorrow, my JDM EF2 is coming home. So if you guys want to stick around and see that, man, be sure to hit the subscribe button. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. My bad.